Thank you. A very good morning to all. It's a real pleasure for me to be with our esteemed panelists. Today, what we're going to be covering predominantly is around the topic of strengthening cybersecurity in banking, financial services, and insurance sector. It operates across borders and barriers. We're going to look at some of those, and the panelists will share some of their viewpoints around those. And then we're going to be tuning into specifically around addressing some of the emerging threats and solutions through automation and orchestration. Panelists, thank you for joining us this morning. Perhaps, Nadir, if you could open us up a little bit around this particular topic. We're seeing that there is an increasing trend of financial institutions operating across borders, right? Could you give us a sense of what's driving this trend and the opportunities that you see that represents for the FIs?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum all, morning. Simon, it's a loaded question just to start with. But nonetheless, yeah. See, if we talk about BFSI, right? So we talk about the banks, FIs, and whatever comes under FI. And as of today now, FI, the domain has become so, in terms of depth and breadth, so massive. So everything, when we talk about a payment is a part as a component of something behind a use case or a product we try to categorize under fintech. So, and if we look at global and the regional paradigm, how the industry is evolving overall. So we talk about banks, we talk about the digital banks, neobanks, challenger banks, fintechs. Under fintech, if we talk about, we need to categorize because you see, if we say that FI has a lot of opportunities cross-border, so we need to understand FI in which capacity, under which area. So on a very high level, if we talk about, say, FI, so we can talk about payment aggregation, we can talk about payment issuing, we can talk about third-party processing, we can talk about digital wallets, we can talk about pay later solution, and so on and so forth. So, but the region, we are lucky to witness this, at least where we are part of this region, and specifically in Saudi Arabia now, because I traveled from there, I'm based in Riyadh. So the opportunity is massive across all these verticals. It's not only like there is an opportunity for the bank, or there is opportunity for any particular area, no. So we talk about each single vertical, and we are witnessing it, right? I was part of Raji Bank earlier. I was responsible for international expansion to take bank to the other countries. And now we are seeing how, in fact, other countries are wanting to be part of Saudi Arabia. So across all these verticals, in terms of payments, payment ecosystem, there is a massive opportunity. But when we talk about the opportunity, we need to understand, okay, how is it easy or what it takes to be part of that country or part of that ecosystem, right? So the opportunity is massive in all these areas, but it needs to be seen, and there is a complete, framework. Okay, once that opportunity is there, how it can be converted.
Excellent, thank you, Nadir, and welcome, Lenoy, for joining us as well. Amazing, right? So in terms of opportunities, Nadir, just maybe you could share your viewpoints around the other side of the coin, which is really around the challenges and the barriers. Could you share some of your thoughts around that?
See, yeah, as I said, because there is a complete mechanism, in fact, how it can be tapped into. And whenever we talk about converting an opportunity, so there are so many drivers, but on a very high level, there are three which covers everything, which is, if I'm trying to expand or I'm trying to convert an international opportunity in my favor, so is it really feasible for me to do that or no? And if it's feasible, I am desired in that market, I'm trying to solve a piece of puzzle, I'm trying to add a value over there, or I'm just going there for the sake of going there, So that desirability has to be there. And there are cases which, in fact, I have seen in my experience that maybe it's perfectly feasible to be there, it's perfectly desirable to be there, but maybe even if you do that, you're not even profitable in the long shot. So, if you are checking all these points, it makes a perfect sense to be there, right? And now, you see, I'll only share two examples on this scenario. One from the cross-border remittance point of view. So where we are now, like UAE is the second largest corridor when it comes to sending money. Saudi is third after America. America is the one. So as of today, Saudi is a $46 billion market when it comes to money remittance, right? And it's going to be 65 billion in the next 5 years, which is almost 6 to 7% compound annual growth, which is massive, right? While it's happening, a lot of players, international MTOs, international remitters are trying to be part of the ecosystem in Saudi Arabia. And a couple of days back, I was talking to somebody. If there is an MTO, they are trying to be part of Saudi. And I said, guys, I do understand that the market is on the boom and you want to be part of it. But what actually you will be resolving here, even if you come. So this is, from a challenge point of view. So they are internationally established. They have the ecosystem. They have the infrastructure. But when it comes to, okay, what's there in order to offer to the market, so that's the missing part. For example, as of today, I can send $5,000 from Saudi Arabia to outside Saudi Arabia at the cost of $2.6 only. So now if MTO is entering in Saudi Arabia, right, so they really need to beat this. And then comes the acquisition cost, because you can start offering these things once you have a sizable customer base. In order to have a sizable customer base, you really need to invest a lot, right? So this is one of the challenges, okay, you are perfectly ready, but in terms of profitability, maybe in the 5 next years, it doesn't make sense for you, and the opportunity will be gone.
Great, thank you, Nadir. Really useful information. Sampath, if I could pick your brain a little bit, right? With First Abu Dhabi Bank operating across multiple geos and jurisdictions, how has the bank navigated some of the challenges, the barriers, as well as the opportunities? If you could share with us, please. Thank you.
Yeah, happy morning, Simon, and pleasure to be part of this panel. Definitely, yes, I think, we operate in 19 countries, plus we have also a few countries in which we have rep offices. It's a definite challenge to comply with the regulations across the multiple geographies, especially, on a cybersecurity perspective. Every country is very concerned about the data of the customer. And being a regulated financial institution, we need to make sure that the customer data is properly protected. And with the increasing trend of attacks and phishing and frauds, we need to establish the trust and confidence with the customers that their data is protected, and we have multiple layers of protection to demonstrate, saying that we are properly adequately secured from a data protection perspective. Definitely, I think it's a challenge for us to continuously look at the regulatory changes coming across different geographies, and also keep an eye on it, what is changing and how do we comply with it. Today, most of the regulators give you a very short window in order to comply with the changes. So what we have done is basically, it's grown over a period of time. It took some time, few years for us to basically, bring in that practice, discipline, and also some sort of structured approach to see how we can make sure that we are not breaching some of the regulations. Even in terms of, if you have a planned outage because of, say, let's say, any attack or any other, there are certain regulators who have stipulated time in which you need to, recover from the situation. If not, I think, they are subject to fines, subject to, business disruption. Many consequences are there. So from that, I think over a period of years, what we have done is we have established, while it was started with a manual process of looking at regulations coming and mapping it with it and see what we need to do. Because in FAB, what we do is majority of the countries we support from head office here, which means that the systems and applications are hosted in UAE, and also the lot of traffic flows through UAE into the external world. So it converges into a central environment, and then it diverges across various areas. So we need to provide that central protection and make sure that the regulatory guidelines are being followed very properly. Now, I think in the past couple of years, we have at least established an automated solution in order to map the regulatory, new regulatory guidelines into the compliance with the security, cybersecurity, especially cybersecurity configuration parameters and compliance and everything. And we have a certain mechanism to demonstrate, saying that we are complying with those policies and processes, what is being released. And increasingly what we are also looking at is that many geographies are forcing data localization. So that's also another challenge where we need to start, pushing some of the data into local geographies, and also make sure that when it's moving into the local geographies, the same set of security, compliance, protection, everything is being provided. It's become an expensive exercise because once you start disintegrating your architecture, then you need to have multiple different capabilities to be established in each of those localized geographies, and it should comply with also the head office related regulations, because the regulator here also expects that we follow certain guidelines what is being published here, even though it is the architecture is in the local geography itself. So from that perspective, cybersecurity today is one of the topmost priority for us, especially protecting the customer data being largest bank in the region. The challenges keeps coming on a daily basis. The way we are able to respond is we are also working with various partners. It's going to be challenging if we want to do everything on your own. So we have a sort of a hybrid approach of working with partners to see how they can respond quickly in terms of any situation. Also, how do you build internal capabilities where there is a skill expertise available who also continuously keeps watch on these threats, challenges, opportunities and everything. So it's matured over a period of time, and I think it's a curve which will keep maturing because the fraudsters are becoming more smart enough in order for fooling the customers and also trying to show as if it's being a bank which is operating. So it's an evolving maturity which will keep growing as the GenAI capabilities are coming in. The fraudsters are becoming more smart while the GenAI also gives us opportunity. It's a sort of a balance that we need to strike. But yes, that is one of the topmost priorities for us to keep security as the biggest strategy in whatever we do.
Excellent. Thank you, Sampath. Very comprehensive, and appreciate that. I think it's a good segue, Zahir, if you could please, right? So with the financial institutions looking to operate across multiple geos, could you give us a sense of what you think are is the emerging threat landscape, and specific examples that you have experienced or are experiencing, from your perspective, please? Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Very good morning and Assalamu alaikum everyone, and thanks to GBB and Emerging Tech to having us here to discuss on this interesting topic. And it's a buzzword and it's an interesting topic, cybersecurity and the emerging threat. Definitely, if we have to agree that the digital footprints has been exponentially growing. Like now we are carrying the smartphone with us, which is having a super computing power. Okay, super computing power using which you can do the transactions cross-border or do the trading and all those things. So yes, we have to agree that the emerging technologies has brought in a lot of threats. The digital landscape has been increasing day by day. The adoption of the cloud, the migration, the lift and shift are the born in the cloud. So the first primary is currently what is going on in the region and across the region is the cyber warfare. So the threat actors or the state actors are active, and they are targeting the critical infrastructure, the government entities, in terms of the DDoS attack or denial of distributed denial attack, so that your services are not available or the services go slow. Those are the primary number one activity or number one item which is there on to-do list for every CISO, to ensuring that your critical infrastructure, like don't boil the ocean, ensure your crown jewels or critical infrastructure is well protected from the DDoS attack or attacks which is happening onto your applications. Second is the data breach. We have as the previous discussion or the keynote speaker, they were saying data is a fuel. Yes, true. So data is everywhere, whether it's Instagram, whether it's a Facebook, whether it's your application, your systems, your core banking, your CRM, you name it, there is a data. So you need to ensure where is your critical data. data sitting. Like again, don't boil the ocean, see where the critical data is sitting, and ensure like we have to protect those critical data. Third is coming as, if you see, the ransomware is up in the market again. Yeah, there was a dip, like, but there's up in the market, like it's a 14% increase quarter on quarter for the ransomware. So how we are equipped? So ransomware, the logbits and all others, they are once again getting very, very active in the market in the region. So ransomware is coming behind everyone. So wherever they see any small glitch, they enter. They need just one user, one attempt, and that's it. From there, they know how to reach to your privilege account, to your admin account, and that's it. And there they will plant the bomb, silent bomb over there, and whenever they need to activate, they'll activate, and that's it. It's all gone. Your entire network, entire systems, architecture, whatever, no matter what layer of defense you have, it's all blocked. And next one is as Sampath rightly said, AI is it's a two-way sword. Like it can go either of the way. So the adversaries are taking very much advantage of AI. They are creating the phishing phishing emails in a real like even anyone who's having the expertise will not be able to judge or see like whether this email, the phishing simulation email, which we have seen, is exactly as real as it can be sent by a CEO or impersonating a CEO. The classic example of it is there are two cases. I don't want to name the entity names where the worth of 25 million was sent out. Just by a deepfake call, once again helping with the AI. Another which was limited, very much limited, because the end user person was smart enough. He concluded that, okay, I am receiving this email, call, and also WhatsApp message up to me to do something, and he suspect why someone as a user is contacting me at the same time at 3 different channels. So he raised it to the information security department, and they found out, okay, it was coming from a AI-based phishing attack and phishing attack, and because it was a voice, it was an email, as well as it was smishing attack from the message. So these are the couple of things. IoT is getting another attention, the threat landscape. IoT before the banks or any LFIs institutions was not having. Now we do have a penetration of IoT, but not at the level of the industrial. But yes, those are taking the attention. Those are getting onto the threat landscape. You need to ensure you are having a latest patch on IoT, and the all defense layer is our threat defense layer, which we call as a Swiss cheese defense layer, also. So those are there in a place. So these are the couple of critical. If you ask me, I can talk for next 24 hours for the cybersecurity threats landscapes and the remedial and mitigation actions. So these are the couple of things which are coming up and which thoroughly need the attention. The mobile device is one of it. The apps are getting attacked. There are, once again, I don't want to name the entity. These entities where you can go do the hotel booking, flight booking. Knowingly, unknowingly, this app was having a stealer malware. Okay, so what's stealer malware? So I want to do some booking. So I know this app is very, very famous. I'll download it. I'll configure my email ID, username, password, and all that. But unknowingly, this app is reading all my username and password for my, suppose, banking username, password, email username, password, and uploading it to the dark web. Okay, we are finding it. Your username password can be easily acceptable on a dark web or deep web, and you can get it worth $20 only. Any one of you need it, just give me $20, we'll get it you. So these are a couple of threats which are definitely there. We need to have we need to understand. We are preparing a landscape. We are preparing a strategy, ensuring how we can cover up those threats.
Excellent. Thank you, Zahir. You touched upon, I think, Sampath, you as well, you talked about data, right? Sultan, data is such a critical asset for FIs. Could you share with us, please, what financial institutions should do in order to address the unique cybersecurity, data residency, and privacy challenges that they would have to consider as part of the cross-border operations. Please.
Sure. Assalamu alaikum. That's a very good question because, financial institutions use data as a lifeblood for their operations, new products, new services, and there are new emerging challenges when it comes to regulation, data residency, cybersecurity, data privacy as well. So there are multiple, let's say, challenges that financial institutions should strategize about, should maneuver. I'll just focus maybe on the top three. When it comes to cybersecurity, I think organizations should continue to make the countermeasure stronger when it comes to data encryption in transit, at rest, have multi-factor authentication implemented, and also to have the data access audited by third party, just to ensure the let's say proper data governance activities. So from cybersecurity, I think the traditional measures should be there, should be implemented. From data privacy, there are regulations when it comes to, collecting, storing, sharing customer data. So there are multiple regulations when it comes to privacy, like the GDPR. Now in Saudi, there is the PDPL, the Personal Data Protection Law, which started last September, which is, let's say, a similar version of GDPR in Saudi. And there are like big, let's say, technical requirements when it comes to data, when it comes to customer rights, of knowing their data, access to their data, rectifying their data, etc. So this is another, let's say, challenge that FIS faces. The third one is the residency that you've just mentioned. I think residency is also another thing that banks and financial institutions should consider when it comes to third party, when it comes to contracting with cloud service providers. Banks or financial institutions should have high level of requirements, or let's say strong level of requirements when it comes to the certification of the cloud service provider, the best practices they are following, and being a big player. You need to have also the data availability requirements when it comes to incidents, or when it comes to data availability. Nowadays in Saudi, as you may have heard, that there are a big hyperscalers coming to Saudi, and one of the early customers is banks for them. Banks have ambitious plans to launch new product services, but the main hindrance was the data localization. So especially now we have another, let's say, regulator in the landscape. It used to be the National Cybersecurity Authority. When it comes to cybersecurity, now we have the NDMO, the National Data Management Office, which is responsible for data requirements only. So there are like two regulators in the national level. When it comes to industrial level, there is the central bank, which is SAMA in Saudi, which has another layer of, let's say, regulatory requirements in this perspective. So these three aspects needs to be under data governance framework. So in that framework, banks should also put the access controls, the audit, the storage of data, the let's say mapping the different jurisdiction requirements, because banks now operate, or they use services in other countries. So they need to map all the regulatory requirements from different countries to make sure there is no conflict, no repetition, no challenge when it comes to implementation. Last but not least is the transparency with customers, giving them the full rights to access their data and rectify it or to erase it. This is, I think, beyond the requirements. It's something that customers should have access to. And also, there should be a risk-based approach when it comes to assess these kind of decisions. So it shouldn't be a pure technical decision. It shouldn't be business. It shouldn't be cyber. It should be on the organization level. Like, okay, if I want to take this action, what are the complications? What are the possible consequences when it comes to fines, when it comes to breaches of regulations, when it comes to sacrificing some of this cybersecurity protection? So there should be a risk-based approach to help the top management take the right decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Sultan. I think very useful advice there. I'm going to switch it up a little bit, right? So in terms of, maybe Zahir, if you can share from your perspective as the CISO of the bank, could you give us maybe an example of one advanced technology automation approach that you would take to combat cyber attacks?
Look, it's not a one statement answer over there. Like as I said, like technology has advanced, so like we need to have the control measures from all the angles. Like because you may get shot from any angle. Like, the adversaries are coming behind the LFIs, the licensed financial institution. After defense, LFIs are the second controlled environment across the world. So like to start with, like what we see is the security at design phase. Okay, whenever we are designing any application or any infrastructure, we ensure that the security is a prime at the core, because we have to show like whether it's application or systems or anything, when it undergo the vulnerability or penetration testing, like all checks are there in a place. So that's one thing. You need to have the current trend generation, or the current market is so like you always need to have a threat intel platform who is monitoring you 24/7. Okay, who is ensuring your brand monitoring, your C-level monitoring, their social accounts, their corporate accounts are being monitored 24/7. And if there is anything, any of your presence is there on a dark web, deep web, open web, they report it to you. There are a lot of websites which are coming, apps which are coming, which are impersonating the banks, the LFIs, and there are instances, there are cases where the users, they download it, they happen to fall in a phishing or kind of a fraudster game and got compromised, their username, password, they have lost their hard-earned money. So those things are there. We have the threat intel platforms which scans you, they also scan like according to the region, like where the fraudsters or the threat actors are coming in, which ransomware group is active in that region. They give you all the threat intel. So these are these is on the top priority. The third one is the identity and access management and privilege access management, which is plays very important role, like whom you give the access, as Sultan rightly said, like the right to access or role-based access has to be there, like because if maker and checker is having the same access, or the same person is having maker checker access, you don't need any adversary. Or internal team member or operation guy will do it all for you. So he will play with all those money of yours, of your business. So PAM is important, the privilege access management, like everything which goes through your admin and your privilege access users, what they are doing, what level of access, because they can create a lot of havoc into your system as an internal resource, as well as your fraudsters or the cyber attacker is coming behind you, and if they happen to compromise any of your privilege account, so that can create a lot of things. So we monitor it, where we have those IAM and PAM solutions in place, so that we can monitor. Like the red teaming is coming, which is getting again the attention in the market. Like so, the red teaming is not only of your application and infrastructure where your business is running; it also goes behind your suppose one of my branch, suppose somewhere in a remote area, is having a printer. Okay, with one of the teller is having a printer, and it's having a USB-C activated, or the USB connection. Like anyone, like the internal user or anyone, can come and just plug in a USB and that's it. Then that's and second thing, like as I said, IoT devices or any ATMs which is there at a remote location, someone is coming and sitting near the ATM. Well, just park the car, get your laptops, get your all high-end devices, just see if there is Wi-Fi or network connected. If you can connect to the ATM, that's it. It's all done and dusted. So those things, so this red teaming exercise, it really brings in those gaps to us, like where we can come to know, like, okay, like these are the potential threats which you can surface and which you need to remediate at the earliest.
Thank you, Zahir. Appreciate it. Linoy, as cyber threats continue to evolve, what do you believe should be the key components of a future-proof cybersecurity strategy, particularly of those who are operating across multiple jurisdictions? If you could share.
So first of all, sorry for being late. So cybersecurity is very close to our heart in HSBC, and it has been an evolution through time. And I'm actually going to take you back a few years. So I started my career in London, and then I went to Hong Kong, then I went to China, and then I went to Mexico. And in Mexico, I really learned about what cybersecurity threat is really about, and I'll explain why. So our CIO at the time, they had just gone through a whole iteration of looking at their estate, where their vulnerabilities are, and how to address them, especially around cyber. So he wanted to teach us about cyber threats. And the way that they taught us about cyber threats is actually showing us how easy it is to hack a system. So they took us into a room, they closed the door, they locked the door, they threw a few biscuits at us, and then they said, okay, we're going to teach you how to hack a system. And for a full day, I became a hacker. The CIO becomes the hacker. They said, what do you want to do first? Which website do you want to see the vulnerabilities first? I said, let me try British Airways because I'm British. So I took the British Airways site. I took it. They gave me, which I'm not going to say. They showed me how to hack that site. I hacked it within 10 seconds.
Wow.
And it made me very, very scared. They also showed us, a bit like you're saying, there is literally a database with all our passwords in. They said, Linoy, check your top 10 passwords. Is this correct? I was like, yes. They were like, maybe change your passwords. So it was an education. And from that point on, because we have to protect everything from every single element within the bank, be it our own applications that we've written in-house, vendor application, third party, vendors that sit outside of the bank, data residing on the cloud. We had to look at all of these things, and so we needed to ensure that we had first line, second line, and third line, so that we could not be penetrated. Because for us, penetration is very, very, very complicated, and it can get into the papers. And no CIO wants to get their name into the paper. And we went through an education, and that education took us through many, many lines, including going to governments, finding out which systems had never been penetrated before, and seeing what code they're using. So this is the type of investigation that we did. In terms of like what you're saying in terms of cross, because we're international, right? So we need to really look at this piece, and in the Middle East it's very complicated, because we have, as a gentleman says, we have the PDPL in Saudi Arabia, we have the NDMO controls, we have the controls that we need to be onshore in Turkey. So these are all elements that we really, really, really need to be, we need to address, and we need to ensure that we are secure. So it's been a journey, it's been a long journey. I've been in the bank 18 years and it's still going on.
Thank you, Linoy. Very interesting experience for that. Thank you for sharing that personal experience. Sultan, we kind of covered a couple of examples of automation and how orchestration can streamline cybersecurity processes. Manual oversight and intervention still remains critical, right, regardless of this level of automation. How, in your view, can organizations maintain this balance effectively in order to ensure robust cybersecurity?
Thank you. I think this is a continuous challenge to CISOs when it comes to, automating some of the cybersecurity operations when it comes to detection or taking action on, certain threats or vulnerabilities. So I think the best way that at least I've tried when I was a CISO in one of the Saudi banks, and before that in similar, let's say, financial institutions, is to have a strategy. What tasks should be automated, orchestrated, and what tasks should have the analytical skills. After a few trials, it seems that there are some tasks you can easily automate, like vulnerability scanning, taking swift action on certain threats, like disconnecting or isolating an infected machine. Also generating reports on certain assets or certain segments in the network. So the mundane task, repetitive tasks that the Security Operations Center is doing can be automated. It will save time for the cybersecurity team. But for the manual oversight, I think there are some tasks that you cannot automate. You shouldn't, unless you will be taking a big risk, like the analysis of some events, also taking decisions on major, let's say, network or configuration, or let's say access to certain resources. So it should be analyzed by expert. And this cannot be happen without proper training, without proper, let's say, having multiple tier of personnel, like, level 1, level 2, level 3, the expert. So you need to have this orchestrated internally as a process in your bank. The thing that most of the banks now are starting to adopt is the SOAR system, where it can not only monitor your system, it can take decision on your behalf using some analytics, using some AI, let's say, engine. And that also is saving time for the expert. So by saying saving time, you're saving resources, you're reducing the number of people. So there are also a return on that investment as well. And there are some new emerging risks that some people are not aware of. So that part of the automation is helping to bridge the gap, the knowledge gap, that there are emerging risks, 0 days sometimes, threats that needs to be dealt by the machine. Thank you.
Thank you, Sultan. We have about a few minutes left, and I was hoping, Sampath, you could sort of wrap up the panel today, right? In terms of your thoughts on what are some of the key takeaways that you would like to leave the audience in terms of how FIs could strengthen their cybersecurity posture as well as their cyber resilience.
I think based on the discussion that we had across the panelist members, I think one of the things which probably we have not touched upon is the customer education. Today it is very easy for the fraudster to trick the customer. You might think that legitimate request or legitimate call is coming from a financial institution and easily give away your information, especially I think, when you are threatened by saying that if you don't give your information, your KYC will be done, your account will be blocked, and immediately, your reaction is such that you don't have time to think whether is this a legitimate call coming in, and some matured, customers probably take a pause to respond, but many of them actually give up their credentials, which is becoming one of the challenges for financial institutions, because the consequences then the LFIs has to take care of the entire end-to-end configuration. I think customer education in the cybersecurity space is very important. I think you need to keep on communicating to the customers in terms of the challenges that's coming in, and also to the internal stakeholders, because there are, I mean, as Zaid talked about the access in terms of identity and access management, you have a threat which is also within the organization, because you need to know what sort of access that you can give to the data, what empowerment authority you are given to access data, because we have very sensitive data. So from that sensitive data perspective, who can have access, how do you control that? I think that is a key aspect of it. The tools and technologies keep coming in. I think they keep improving. We have a lot of enhanced tools. With generative AI coming in, I think the LFI should look at, as Sultan rightly mentioned, that how do you automate many of the mundane tasks and then have less reliance on manual oversight and monitoring, because the amount of logs that gets generated out of all this is humongous, you know, and the false positives that get generated out of the logs is also very high, and it's practically will be impossible for you to eye on it to see that which one you need to be alert on, look at it. I think the tools and generative AI capabilities needs to be leveraged in order so that you don't miss the right alert. So automation needs to be basically, brought in space. And then of course, I think the primary importance is to look at the regulations. You know, we need to keep an eye on always the regulations. I mean, in Saudi itself, we talked about 3 different authorities, imposing 3 different set of guidelines, and you need to comply with all of these guidelines. It's very critical. You cannot ignore them. So we need to keep and watch on the regulations coming in. How do you make sure that you do not end into a situation of breach and then ending into FT fines automatically, because one compromise will cost you a lot, and to recover from it is going to take a long period of time. I think if you sum it up, I think customer education is very important. I think implementation of automation tools is critical. Communication with internal and external stakeholders, and then data access in terms of what access, who has, and then how it can be monitored and controlled. I think these are, key aspects that needs to be considered.
Thank you, Sampath. I mean, that's a great way to sort of sum up the key points that were shared by the panel. And all the panelists, thank you so much, for sharing your perspectives. If you don't mind, audience, just want to thank the panelists for their time. Really appreciate it. And perhaps now I think I would like to hand it over to our host. And so thank you once again for all of your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Simon. And I